Caitlin Clark, the name that's been on everyone's lips since she entered the WNBA, has just made an earth-shattering decision. She's leaving the league. After carrying her team through an incredible rookie season, dealing with cheap fouls, tough defenses, and relentless accusations, Clark has finally had enough. She's headed to Europe, shaking the foundation of the WNBA. But the question remains, can we really be surprised? From the moment Caitlin Clark stepped onto the court at Iowa, she was destined for greatness. Her long-range shooting, killer instinct, and relentless drive made her a household name even before she entered the WNBA. When the Indiana Fever drafted her, the expectations were high, but Clark delivered. In her rookie season, she didn't just play, she dominated. She took a struggling Fever team and single-handedly carried them to the playoffs. Attendance records shattered, ticket sales skyrocketed, and her jersey became the bestseller in the league. Caitlin Clark was more than just a player. She was the future of the WNBA. But behind all that success, there was a growing storm brewing. Despite her electric performances, Clark faced something no star player should have to deal with: blatant physical abuse on the court. Game after game, opponents hit her with cheap shots, elbows, and hard fouls that the referees often ignored. She was getting hammered, and everyone saw it. But no one stepped in to protect her. Clark didn't stay quiet about it either. In a recent interview, she expressed her frustration, saying, "I feel like I'm getting hammered. Opponents get away with things that others don't." But the league's response? Silence. The physical hits kept coming, and the officials turned a blind eye. It felt like the refs were looking for any excuse to penalize her, and the frustration started to show. As the season wore on, Clark was visibly growing more and more exasperated, and who could blame her? No matter how much she dominated the game, it seemed the league was working against her. But it wasn't just the refs that Clark had to contend with. On the court, she faced hostility from some of the league's most vocal players: Angel Reese, Kennedy Charter, and Dijonai Carrington. Each of them made it clear they weren't fans of Clark's rising stardom. Angel Reese, in particular, had been one of Clark's loudest critics, both on and off the court. The two had heated exchanges during games, with Reese often delivering pointed remarks about Clark's play style. Kennedy Charter followed suit, frequently targeting Clark with hard fouls and trash talk. Dijonai Carrington's physical play was another hurdle Clark had to endure, often pushing the limits of what was acceptable on the court. Despite the hate, Clark never let it affect her performance. She continued to play at an elite level, showing why she was one of the most talked-about rookies in league history. But the constant tension, both physically and mentally, took its toll. And then came another blow, one that left many fans scratching their heads. Despite her incredible season, Caitlin Clark was left off the Team USA roster. A decision that shocked not only fans, but also analysts who couldn't understand how one of the league's brightest stars was overlooked. For a player who had given everything to the game, being excluded from such an honor was a slap in the face, and it only added to the growing list of frustrations Clark was dealing with. Then came the playoffs. After carrying the Fever all season, Clark entered the postseason with high hopes. And in typical Caitlin Clark fashion, she put on an absolute clinic in their series against the Connecticut Sun, dropping 29 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds in a performance that should have been enough to secure victory. But while Clark was playing like a one-woman army, her teammates couldn't keep up. Veterans like Victoria Vivians and Kelsey Mitchell struggled, missing key shots and making costly mistakes. As Clark fought tooth and nail to keep the Fever's season alive, it became clear she was doing it alone. When the final buzzer sounded, the Fever's season was over. But for Caitlin Clark, it was more than just a loss. It was a wake-up call. No matter how hard she played, no matter how much she gave, she couldn't carry this team by herself. After the devastating playoff loss, Clark's frustration boiled over. She had given everything to the Fever, to the WNBA, and to the game she loved. But it wasn't enough. And on September 29th, 2024, Caitlin Clark made a decision that sent shockwaves through the league. Her departure isn't just a blow to Indiana. It's a massive financial and PR disaster for the WNBA as a whole. In one season, Clark took the Fever's attendance from 3,000 fans per game to 15,000. Her games were must-see events, her jersey the best seller in league history. She generated millions in revenue for the league, and with her leaving, the WNBA is staring at a potential financial meltdown. Clark's departure leaves a gaping hole in the WNBA's future. She was more than just a player. She was the face of a new era. With her gone, the league faces an uncertain future. Fans are devastated, and the Fever is left to pick up the pieces. But for Caitlin, this isn't the end. It's a new beginning. In Europe, she'll find the reset she needs. And while the WNBA will undoubtedly feel her absence, one thing is clear: Caitlin Clark's journey is far from over. Caitlin Clark's decision to leave the WNBA has shaken the sports world. But her story isn't finished. For fans who've followed her journey, this is just one chapter in a much larger book. What's next for Clark? Europe may be her next stop, but no matter where she goes, her impact on the game will never be forgotten. Subscribe if you want to see Caitlin take on Europe and witness her next move in redefining the future of basketball.